Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space, where I take stories from across the internet and read them for your entertainment. This particular story is called Prototype Testing, written by Quick Return 1246. I have the best job in the universe. Technically, I work for Sorax. Yes, that Sorax, largest manufacturer of consumer goods in the Tri-Galaxies and beyond. If you own it, chances are we made it. But I don't work for any of the factory planets or any of the office bases, even though I am familiar with all of them. No, I take care of Johnny. It's a very cushy job that sort of landed at my feet on accident. I used to serve drinks at a little refueling outpost, and a Sorax ship happened to be refueling during my shift. Johnny was on that ship. He liked the way I looked. To be fair, I think he just likes Apocalyptic in general, but I was the first one he saw. Sorax really wants to keep Johnny happy, and so I was hired to keep Johnny happy, which means I wear dresses that show off how small my patola is with skirts that just barely cover my ovipositor, and it took me 6 months to learn how to walk on things Johnny calls high heels, which are apparently very popular with females of his species. I won't lie, after all the demands about my appearance, I expected Johnny to be salacious. But no, he's a gentleman. He just needs me to look nice and do the things he doesn't have time to do. Keep track of appointments, order food and drinks that he can digest, book hotels and travel arrangements, contact medical personnel with appropriate biological expertise, that sort of thing. Oh, and most important to him, have to tell in great detail what happens in the control room when he works, especially if the designers have mental breakdowns or start crying. He lives for those stories. You see, Johnny is Sorax's most successful prototype tester. We'll make you millions, I promise. It'll provide every type of entertainment imaginable. Visuals, audio, scent, regardless of the user's sensory input. One device will serve the needs of every race we know of. The doors to the testing complex B open, and the voice of an overly excited young designer fills the room. I've just finished bringing the sensors of Johnny's suite online. He sounds like a crier, I whispered to Johnny before stepping out of the way. We'll see, Mr. Sorax replies noncommittally. He takes the cube-shaped gadget from the paws of the designer and tosses the thing to Johnny. The designer nervously follows the trajectory of his invention. His paws twitch as he suppresses the urge to snatch the cube out of the air. It's only when Johnny catches the thing that he sees who is holding his precious prototype. It's hard to see color drain from erasers covered in fur. It's mostly the nose that turns pale. That's his. Johnny walked forwards with one hand extended and the cube under his other arm. There is a wide grin on his face, knowing fully well grinning is unsettling to most racers. Hi, I'm Johnny. A pleasure to meet you. The designer ignores the offered hand and turns to Mr. Sorax. Is he? Human, yes. Best man for the job, Sorax says casually. Put that through the usual treatment, Johnny. I look forward to your report. With that, the wealthiest man in the universe turns and walks out of the room, leaving me and Johnny, along with a couple of technicians and a very distraught designer, to start our work. The designer turns back to Johnny, his ears folded flat against his neck in fear. Yes, I'm sorry. Call me Classic. That's my entertainment system. I have a manual. He offers a large binder with paper to Johnny. This time, it's Glazik's outstretched paw that hangs in the air. Ignored. Oh, I don't ever read instructions. Right, let's see what this baby can do, shall we? Johnny walks towards the door leading to the test chamber. The four of us take place behind the console in front of the large glass wall that allows us to look into the chamber. The chamber is empty except for one chair and one table. Johnny takes a seat and gives us a thumbs up. Once the technician presses the button that allows our voices to be heard inside the chamber. Sensors online, everything looks good. You can proceed. What's he doing? What's he doing? Glazik slams his paw on the microphone button. What are you doing? The panic is clear in his voice. I gently remove his paw from the button. Let him do his job, Glazik. He can't do that. Who in their right mind would attempt to push every button at once? He's already on the brink. I try hard not to chuckle. Why don't you go and get a glass of water? Calm down a bit. What? I hear the sound of water splashing. Presumably Glazik dropped his water. I don't look around. My eyes are glued to the images on the entertainment cube it's producing. I've never seen humans copulate. It's fascinating. Hey, Glazek, the clarity of this image is amazing. Shame that I couldn't get the sound to work, Johnny calls over his shoulder. Oh, Glazek screams. He's getting more hysterical by the minute. How is it that even possible? It's a completely new format. There's only 3 playable files in existence. I heard about that. One of the technicians chimes in. It's a human ability. They call it Rule 34. No exceptions. I have to use smelling salts to try and get Glazek to wake up after fainting. That doesn't happen too often. Johnny will love it. When he finally opens his eyes, he starts whining, soon followed by a howling. I killed the person. I am a murderer. I sigh. No, you didn't. My invention electrocuted him. His heart stopped. And we started it right back up. See? Glazek carefully peeks through the glass into the testing chamber. Johnny waves at him. It's going to need a little more insulation, Glazek, he yells back happily. Oh. Glazek looks at me with big bleeding eyes. Oh, we gave him another shock too. Glazek startles me by jumping up with a scream. No words, just a loud scream. He runs for the door, opens it. Right before he slams it shut, he yells, This is insane! You're all insane! Johnny places the cube on Mr. Sorex's desk. I will have a full report for you by the end of the week. Short version, it's pretty good. With a few tweaks, it's sure to be a hit. I have to congratulate Glazek when I next see him. Unfortunately, Glazek has submitted his resignation. Really? Oh, that's a shame. End of story. Story number 2, A Whisper in the Night, written by Teller of Tall Tales. To many, an invasion comes as a whisper in the night. The quiet clink of hovercraft gliding over smooth pavement, accompanied by the marching of soft-treaded boots, perfectly in sync. They are ripped from their beds and homes by armored, masked assailants with guns to be marched away for slave labor. Families are separated, friends are lost, screams fade into the air, like whispers in the night. But we knew the 2nd Marine Division had heard the whispers like the drums of war as our enemies approached, long before citizens of the city ever suspected a thing. We were here for a reason, keep the city safe. We were stretched thin, but I had faith. We made it through worse scraps than this with less men. I peered through my rifle scope, hushing my thoughts as I switched to infrared. Our enemies' adaptive camouflage lighting up like fecking Christmas trees as I got a good gauge on our enemy's size and keyed my radio. A primitive technology by today's standards, but most technologically advanced civilizations don't carry jammers for them anymore. Alpha Squad, Beta Squad. I've got a couple hundred heavily armed and cloaked baddies 500 yards up the main road. Dial your mortars in for 300 yards up the main road. Use airbursts. We don't want to destroy the infrastructure. There was a pause, then a response from either team. Affirmative, sir. Steel rain ready, sir. I nodded and kept silent as I watched our enemies approach. The agreed-upon signal was a single shot from my marksman rifle, so I needed to pick my target carefully. One of the hovercraft towards the middle of the column shimmered in my infrared as a figure poked their head out from a hatch. I toggled my rangefinder and counted down the yards. 400, 375, 350, 325, 300. I slowly let out a breath and squeezed the trigger. The crack of my rifle was the first beat of a war drums of our enemy as the hovercraft commander recoiled and dropped back into the hovercraft. I heard a thump-thump-thump of mortars as they were launched from entrenched positions just outside of the main gates. As the first beat sowed chaos amongst our enemies, the cadence began. Bright flashes and loud booms in the mortars exploded over our enemies' heads. The cadence of our war drums had started. Our enemies uncloaking to give power to their exosuits, giving the rest of the riflemen a target-rich environment. The staccato rhythm of gunfire completed our war drums crescendo as our enemy tried to counterattack, only to be mowed down or blasted back by mortars. 12 minutes since our war drums started, our enemies went silent. I lowered my head from the scope and keyed my radio. This part always made my heart sink. All squads, casualty reports. There was a long pause interrupted by chatter between teams. Finally, A response from Alpha Squad. No casualties here. Beta. None here. I don't think they managed to hit anything. After that, it was a wave of good news. A few minor burns from hot barrels and brass, some hearing damage. No deaths. A beautiful performance. Shots on me when we get back to O'Brien. Beautiful work, man. End of story. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Severin Cerberus, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Caspar Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon WRE, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.